extraordinary network of compassion, mercy, care, advocacy, relief, support, and hope. I am deeply grateful and truly in awe of the way through your work and that of your colleagues, you help call the church to holiness and integrity and remind our country of what it looks like at its very best and most authentic. Before Neil spoke, you saw a short video clip of Jean, who works as a peer advocate supporting clients struggling with mental illness at Catholic Charities Diocese of Trenton. Before Jean was a Catholic Charities employee, she was a client, and the staff and volunteers of that same agency helped Jean propel herself from her darkest moments to the fulfilling, secure life she leads today. One small image catches my attention in our video about Jean. It is a sweatshirt she is wearing in one of the shots. Across her back, you see the words, "You don't know my story." It is a simple but poignant message. The average people Jean encounters in her daily life do not know her story. If we are only just meeting her, we have no idea what she's been through, no concept of her astonishing resilience and grit, nor do we know about her magnanimous heart. Would we treat her differently if we knew her story? Would we stand in awe of all she has overcome? Would we be more likely to approach her with kindness? Would we seek her advice? Knowing a person's story, understanding what they have been through, and learning about what really matters to them opens our hearts and broadens our minds. It can transform indifference and callousness into empathy and admiration. One of my all-time favorite observations by Father Greg Boyle is this: this is what we seek, a compassion that can stand in awe at what the poor have to carry, rather than stand in judgment at how they carry it. You can probably already tell I'm a bit enamored by the power of stories, in life in general, as it applies to our shared work at Catholic Charities. Well-told stories appeal to our common humanity and promote a deeper understanding of one another and of God's immense love for us. There is almost always vulnerability in storytelling. The more that we as a network can share the stories of our clients, the stories of our colleagues, the stories of our volunteers, the stories of our donors, the more the world will fully appreciate the extent to which the work of our agencies transforms the lives of thousands of Americans every day. During these full and beautiful days we have together in Cleveland, and in the weeks, months, and years ahead, I am eager and determined to learn your stories, both personal and professional. I want to know what you care most about, what drew you to this work, and the programs and services of which you are most proud. What breaks your heart? What fills your heart? By way of introduction, permit me to offer a bit of my own story to you. I share this primarily to convey why it is genuinely the privilege of my lifetime to work with you and for you and on behalf of the Catholic Charities Network. For as long as I can have been aware, I have passionately loved the Catholic Church and held its potential in the highest esteem. Its explicitly religious mission has formed the woman I am. That it is the largest humanitarian network in the world renders me forever committed to its health and vitality. And there is no better representation of the power and goodness of that humanitarian network than the work of Catholic Charities agencies around this country and our partners through Caritas throughout the globe. I first fell in love with the church because of my exposure to it at a very young age through the Raskob Foundation for Catholic Activities. 5 generations of our family have served the church through the instrument of this foundation. Nearly 80 years ago, our great-grandparents, Helena and John Raskob, established the Philanthropic Foundation with two intentions. They wanted all of their resources to be used exclusively to support the Catholic Church throughout the world, and they wanted their children and descendants to be stewards of the foundation's resources as volunteers. Participating in the work of the foundation has radically enlarged our perspective of the church and introduced us, even as teenagers, to the astoundingly diverse forms of ministry under its auspices. As a child, I was drawn to women and men, ordained, religious, and lay, whose faith mattered deeply to them, and who stood at the vanguard of human suffering all over the world and responded by alleviating that suffering, by providing food and shelter and safety, by advocating for those in distress, by championing justice, by sowing the seeds of peace. I was mesmerized by people who dedicated their lives to ministry and pastoral care, education, healthcare, social justice, and service. People exactly like you. I observed that while these childhood role models often bore witness to the worst of what humankind does to one another and to our planet, there was a palpable sense of joy about them. Joy. Their lives were imbued with purpose and meaning. I admired their faith, their interior freedom, and their joy. I aspired to be like them. I yearned to be like you, but all along suspected I could never be so selfless and so holy. So I basically begged God to let me do something with my life that would positively contribute to the lives of my moral heroes. When I stopped to think about it, since I was a child, I have been praying to God that God, by some wonderful miracle, would let me be of service to you, that your ministry and work might flourish unencumbered. As I grew into an adult, I thought I would make my life's work in the field of faith-based philanthropy, helping Catholic funders and foundations make sound investments in people and social enterprises. And then, 26 years ago, almost to the day, I received a surprising invitation from Father Bob Boulogne, a diocesan priest from the Archdiocese of Hartford, who was serving as the Catholic chaplain at Yale University. Father Bob was about to embark on an ambitious fundraising campaign to expand Catholic life at Yale, to construct a Catholic student center on Yale's campus and build up its endowment. To my utter astonishment, he was calling me to ask if I would move to the other side of the philanthropic coin and serve as the director of development and lead a multi-million-dollar campaign. A terrible idea in every possible way. Before I could list those ways, he said, "Kerry, your name came to me in prayer." To this day, that's still the best development pickup line I've ever heard. There was no way I could say yes, however. I hated the very thought of fundraising, and I had no professional training in it. I couldn't imagine myself running a major campaign. And then there was the practical matter that I was pregnant with my second child, and my plans for the near future centered entirely on quiet domestic bliss. When I shared all of this with Father Bob, he hesitated for a second, and then he said, "This is such joyful news, Kerry. Congratulations to you and your husband, Michael. You can work from home." He went on to acknowledge that he was springing this idea on me and entreated me to pray about it for 5 days and then call him. He said, "Whatever your answer is, after 5 days of prayer, I will of course accept and respect it." I readily agreed. with the full but unspoken confidence that after 5 days of prayer, my no would be especially eloquent and persuasive. 5 days later, I called Father Bob, and even today, 26 years after the fact, I am both astonished and deeply grateful that I found myself saying yes. Prayer changes the one praying. It ended up being one of the best decisions of my life, before this one, of course. I found that I loved development work, and thanks to the generosity and enthusiasm of many, the campaign was successful beyond our wildest expectations. The Golden Center, the new building for Catholic life at Yale that our work funded, is a beautiful, welcoming place for the Catholic community there, and an especially sacred space for me. And Father Bob became my dearest and most treasured friend. Needless to say, I'm so glad that I spent those 5 days in prayer. Halfway through our capital campaign at Yale, the abuse crisis revealed itself, first in Boston, then throughout our country. There were many who walked away from the church at that time, but we understood the church to be our faith family. And when your family is in crisis, you do everything possible to effect healing and reconciliation. To do nothing would have been to be complicit. So we suspended the fundraising drive and hosted a 3-day conference in the spring of 2003 called Governance, Accountability, and the Future of the Catholic Church. That conference led to a set of proceedings that became a kind of touchstone for the reform movement in the church. 3 months later, Jeff Boise, a prominent leader in finance and a concerned, committed Catholic, gave an address to a group of Catholic philanthropists. I was wholly captivated as I listened to his analysis and assessment of the underlying conditions in the church that may have contributed to the crisis. I found myself agreeing enthusiastically as he proposed remedies, ways we could all be part of the solution. And I did something that I have never done before or since. As he was concluding his remarks, I went to the back of the room so I could catch him on his way out to introduce myself. I told him, Jeff, if there's anything I can ever do to advance what matters most to you with respect to strengthening the church and restoring trust, it would be my honor to do so. He took me up on that and asked me to be the founding executive director of Leadership Roundtable, an organization he founded in the wake of the crisis. Parenthetically, and this is how grace happens, Tom Healy, who is present today and who has been so instrumental in the conception of CCUSA's Certificate in Nonprofit Executive Management at the University of San Diego, is a founding trustee of Leadership Roundtable and a longtime friend of mine. Thank you, Tom, for reminding me that everything is interconnected. Leadership Roundtable was not and is not explicitly about abuse. Rather, it is a recognition that the church has at its disposal extraordinary assets and often wholly underutilized assets. And at the top of that list is the expertise and experience of lay Catholics. At one of the church's darkest moments, when many people were abandoning it, we convened leaders from across every sector and industry in the United States, all of whom were Catholic. We prevailed upon them to collectively contribute their expertise, their financial acumen, their understanding of best managerial practices, their problem-solving capability, and their social entrepreneurial rigor and courage. And we brought all of that to the service of the church and to church leaders. Our objective was always to demonstrate in a co-responsible manner ordained religious and lay people working in concert to usher in a culture of accountability, transparency, and contemporary best managerial practices. In doing so, we sought to restore trust to the church that we so dearly loved. My nearly 20 years at Leadership Roundtable exposed me to the church at its very best and at times laid bare ignoble qualities. The church has ennobled me and inspired me throughout my entire life, and at times the church has broken my heart. In those times of doubt or frustration, I have consistently returned to a practice recommended to me long ago by a beloved sister of mercy who was my professor and spiritual advisor. She told me, remember what it is you most love about the church and membership in it. Name what you love. Claim what you love. It will provide ballast to allow you to navigate with fidelity and focus when you are disappointed and discouraged. I have taken this advice to heart and highly recommend the discipline. My list is long and deep. I love Catholic social teaching, our church's rich intellectual tradition, sacramental life and imagination, mercy, the Eucharist, the primacy of conscience, prayer and transcendence, forgiveness, the preferential option for and with the poor and most vulnerable, the injunction to be Christ-like. I love that wherever there is human suffering in this world, the church is at the vanguard of providing relief, promoting justice, and advocating for peace. I love our church's appreciation of beauty and aesthetics, the art and architecture, music, even rock and roll, and literature our faith has inspired. I love holy mystery. And in my grief over losing my closest friend, Father Bob, who died of brain cancer, I am grateful more than I can say for our church's articulation of the communion of saints, the conviction of eternal life, the fact that love does not end with death. Most of all, I love the church because of your example, your dedication to serving and lifting up the poor, the way you live out the teachings of the gospel every day, your steadfast commitment to be present in the face of human suffering, providing relief, promoting justice, and advocating for peace. Knowing that this enduring spirit and rich tradition is and always has been what I've held most dear about our church, hopefully you can understand why I am overwhelmed and overjoyed to now play a supporting role in the work of Catholic Charities. I consider it the privilege of my lifetime to stand before you and to work alongside you as we strive to serve and advocate for the most vulnerable members in our society. My primary purpose at this conference and in these early months is to listen attentively and to learn from you. I want to learn your stories and gain a deeper understanding of your utterly essential work in this world. In these early weeks, one way I have been able to get to know you and your work is through CC Connect. I highly, highly encourage use of CC Connect. We are just at the beginning of realizing its value to our collective network. I now want to express my gratitude to our board of directors for granting me the honor of supporting our agencies and the work all of you do in your communities. Since many of our board members are not directly affiliated with an agency, they may be unfamiliar faces to many of you. With that in mind, may I please ask all members of the CCUSA board to please stand now so that we can recognize you and thank you for your leadership. I also want to express my deep gratitude to and appreciation for someone who isn't here with us in person, but whose wisdom and legacy animates so much of what we do, Sister Donna Markham. Sister Donna made a daunting transition much smoother than expected for me, and we are all the beneficiaries of her transformative and visionary leadership. As an homage to our local host, Catholic Charities Diocese of Cleveland, and the wonderful evening at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that they have arranged for us tonight, I was searching desperately for the perfect set of lyrics. Sadly, you can't always get what you want. But if you try sometime, you just might find you get what you need. When I think of your collective work for more than 110 years, I realize there's nothing you can't do that can't be done. All you need is love, love, love. Love is all you need. Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling. It's a beautiful day. Don't let it get away. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop. It'll soon be here. It'll be better than before. Also, I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. Okay, this could go on for some time. And it is almost embarrassing how many hours over the weekend I spent on this section of the talk. Forgive the digression, but what would we do without the universal languages like music and laughter and mercy and love? Now, I would like to briefly update you on 4 initiatives that particularly caught my attention in my first 6 weeks today. First, as I know some of you learned from Sister Donna earlier this year, we're welcoming our first new membership agency in some time. We have not yet nailed down an official name, but the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, with whom I know a number of our agencies have coordinated through your inspiring work resettling thousands of Ukrainian refugees, has been officially approved for their own Catholic Charities agency. Their mission is to serve Ukrainians who have relocated to the United States, and they will work in collaboration and alongside our regional agencies in doing so. We welcome them with great joy and solidarity. Second is Team Up, which is a shared venture among Catholic Charities, the YMCA, Habitat for Humanity International, and Interfaith America to build bridges and seek out unity and commonalities in communities across our country at a time of increasing polarization and fracture. Ibu Patel, the founder and president of Interfaith America and my friend, will be speaking to us about this initiative later today. You will not want to miss Ibu's presentation. A special thank you to the agencies who have participated in the pilot stage of Team Up, and I know the rest of us look forward to learning more and getting involved. As a quick aside, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how worried we were at the national office about the very real possibility of a government shutdown as one consequence of political polarization affecting our country. We knew the deleterious impact a government shutdown would have on so many of the communities you and your agencies serve. We were cognizant of the added stress and strain that would be placed on you. You know better than most how government shutdowns can affect the most vulnerable members of our communities. According to our 2022 annual survey, half of all individuals served by Catholic Charities agencies last year came to us needing assistance in the area of food and nutrition. Half of all individuals served. Thank you for all that your agencies do every day to feed those who are hungry. I want you to know how seriously we take your mission and work, and how diligently we worked at the national office to be proactive with a communications and fundraising campaign entirely centered around garnering support on your behalf for food for the communities most impacted, the better to equip you as quickly as possible to help those who are hungry and frightened for their children. Along with food and nutrition, we will continue to support you in the areas of Catholic identity and leadership development, disaster operations, integrated health, social policy, affordable housing, social enterprise initiatives, and in particular, in the face of rising need, amidst callousness of heart, outrageous accusations, political rhetoric, and inaction, we will work hard to support your immensely demanding, holy work of caring for immigrants and refugees and asylum seekers, because the border is everywhere. Third, and this is especially exciting for those of you who share an unusual passion for strategic planning, in the very near future, we will begin the process of identifying an updated set of strategic priorities for CCUSA. We are excited to take a holistic view of our goals and the ways in which we can best support your agencies. As an initial step, we plan to conduct brand awareness and sentiment research with important audiences to understand how they perceive Catholic Charities and how those perceptions have changed since our last network-focused research in 2015. Of course, your input will be the critical component. Stay tuned for more information in the coming months about how we will collect your invaluable insights. Last but certainly not least in my mind, I want you to know that my desire to learn your stories and deepen my knowledge of your work extends far beyond this weekend. If you will have me, I plan to make regular visits to agencies around the country to get an on-the-ground understanding of the communities you serve, the challenges you face, and the successes you achieve. I already have a number of visits mapped out for this fall, and we are working on a schedule for the winter and spring. I leave you with my own favorite rock and roll lyric from the band U2. Some things have to be believed before they can be seen. What a beautiful encapsulation of your inspiring faith in action every day to make this a better, more merciful, more just, and loving world. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry, for those inspiring words. We are so pleased to have you here with us at the annual gathering, the first of many more to come. And I know the entire network is very much looking forward to working with you. Now, Kerry and I are going to take a seat here.